Well, then you have to do that again.
Yeah,
Shut.
so basically, welcome to the recording. Those of you who missed tonight, all you've missed so far, we forgot to start recording, is a quick meditation, so you can access that if you'd like to catch up doing meditation. And we just talked about what we're going to do tonight, which is in your handbook, so you can look at that. So now, thanks for being here, by the way. How's everybody doing? You getting excited for, is anybody excited for summer? It's coming. You could totally feel it these last 2 days. And then, of course, the holiday weekend coming up. It's exciting. But I want to know specifically, Kristen and I both want to know about your meditation practice. How has it been going this first week according to what we talked about last week? I know we mentioned some things in terms of the why you do it. We were talking about some of the benefits. And one of the interesting things I think that where we left off last week was this concept of using these two limbs of yoga, pranayama and pratyahara, for a open monitoring meditation. So in the West, in the completely like non-yoga world, this kind of meditation, what you're doing now is called open monitoring. And even being that the language is completely watered down, you still get awesome benefits from this type of meditation. One that we talked about last week that I just want to touch base on again because I had a cool insight about that I just wanted to share. Maybe this can kick off some ideas in your own practice as far as what benefits. Hopefully you've been getting some, and if not, if it's been completely benign, that's okay too. Because we definitely don't want to enter into a meditation practice heavy with expectations. That's a great way to dampen it down. But one of the benefits from pratyahara, or turning the senses inward, kind of shutting out the outside world, is accountability. And we talked a little bit about spiritual bypass, or basically just the idea of how when you are sitting with yourself in silence for time and still, you may be confronted with some of the ways in which you might be chiding yourself, or pulling your own leg, or, I guess what I'm getting at is it requires a certain level of honesty with yourself to be a fruitful practice. So, you can't, it's easy enough to go through our life in these roles that we identify with, whether it be a mother, a father, a sister, a brother, an accountant, whatever kind of job it is. But at the end of the day, when you sit down on your cushion, all those layers, they peel away, and you are really, truly wasting your time if you're not allowing yourself to be open, to connect with what you are of. And that's kind of how we're going to thread it into tonight. But we'll come back to that. So this idea of accountability, and another benefit from this practice is equanimity. And I think that when we can be completely accountable to ourselves, when we can catch ourselves with the narratives or the belief systems or the conditioning that we operate under, however benign they may be, like on one hand, some of us, may really have some big stories built up about who we are and what our lives are. Others, they might be really kind of ambiguous stories, but we still need to catch ourselves in that role. And sitting in silence, sitting in stillness allows us to do that. And what happens when we hold ourselves to this level of accountability, which is all of week one's project, was just saying, I'm going to sit on the mat for this much time and try to get there and strive to achieve this little bit. When we do that, equanimity is a natural byproduct of that. And equanimity, basically, how one of my favorite meditation and yoga teachers defines it, is the ability to hold within us a locus of control no matter what is happening outside of us. So that means also, if really good things happen, we also don't get carried away in the fanfare of whatever that might be. But also when bad things happen, we don't let it completely destroy our sense of inner well-being. So all that to say, I'm sure that you all probably have many things to say about certain ways in which there's been obstacles to get yourself to the mat throughout the week. There's probably been some distractions along the way, even when you did get to the mat, of really allowing yourself to find that sense of quietude and peace. So I want to hear if you were able to be gentle with yourself in this practice, whatever metric of success you may have felt like you either achieved or did not achieve, and how this initial open monitoring practice of pranayama, focusing on the breath, and pratyahara, turning the attention inward, how it worked for you for this week, okay? So, and then if you're new, well, let's just revisit our names too, because, you know, through Zoom once a week connection, I think we need a reminder of names. So is anybody willing to volunteer to go first to speak about this? Thank you, Jen. Carlson, you are on deck here.
All right. So, yeah, my name is Jen Carlson. My success for this week is actually being here tonight. My week did not go very well. Early into the week last week, found out about our office's plan for reopening and had me really stressed out, really feeling anxious, and definitely feeling guilty for not practicing the way that I had intended after last week's Zoom call. So I'd done some on Tuesday, and then by Wednesday it all flew out the window. And I definitely had the thought tonight of like, oh my gosh, I can't show my face there. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I didn't even like do any of the things that I intended to do last week. And it was actually when my kids are like, oh my gosh, we need to get snacks so we can get out and give mom the living room, that I was like, no, I'm going to go. So that is my practice of gentleness. That is my practice of showing up even when it didn't go as planned.
Awesome. I mean, awesome in the fact that you did show up, and that you are practicing that gentleness, because meditation is not a practice that does us any bit of good if we try to force it. And I think we mentioned last week this idea of how the fact that the work may look different of what we all need to do during this time than what we expect it to look like. And so right now, if you are in a place where you're here because you are laying intention, well, that intention will fertilize, and when it's time for you to sit and be with whatever it is, that's why here's a little golden secret about why yoga teachers teach yoga the way they do, and we don't go, as last week we talked about meditation as a grown-up practice. Do you remember this? So meditation is very much so a grown-up practice, but it's also very, very difficult to determine, A, if somebody is meditating properly or well, and B, what is happening in terms of a teacher-student relationship. So what is so brilliant about yoga is it's developed as a way to allow teachers to witness through the person's use of their own body in these postures to know where their mind is. I can ask you to move through a certain sequence of postures, and the way you move through those, it doesn't matter how flexible or strong you are, but the mindfulness of which you move through those, the openness with which you move through those, that is what gives me an indication of where your meditation is. So not only is meditation a grown-up practice in terms of as a practitioner, but even as a teacher, if you were to come to a true and proper teacher from the way that I've always understood it in my 13 years of yoga and meditation, people don't start you out with seated, quiet meditations because it's so darn hard. So right now, you're right. The big success is showing up and not to dismiss the fact that you're laying intentional groundwork for future fruiting of this practice to happen. So thank you for being gentle with yourself, and thank you for being here. I think that's a super brave way to start this, and I applaud your vulnerability, and I think that definitely steps the game up for everybody else to just allow yourself to just be completely vulnerable and honest about how this is going for you, because it's, like I said, it's not easy stuff. So who would like to go next? Jen Barks. We'll get the Jens out of the way.
That's what I figured. Gen 1, Gen 2.
Yeah.
So my experience has been a little bit opposite of Gen 1's. I've kept up with all of it. And in fact, I did Kristen's meditation recording really up until Saturday, and then finally felt like, oh, I'll try something else, and did some different ones on Insight Timer. I've really enjoyed it from a discipline standpoint because I get lazy with my asana practice, and I get lazy sometimes with working out, especially being in my house all the time. So I would actually wake up and want to sleep in and be like, oh, if I sleep in, then I'm not going to meditate. And it was like, I said, I'll do the workout and then I'll meditate. And so, so having the, I guess, the reward of meditating at the end of the workout kept me up on my workout schedule. So that was good. But yeah, no, I definitely have noticed, and I'm doing the mantra 40-day challenge with Amber as well right now. So it's like meditating and chanting every single day, which I've never done all of that compounded. And it's really cool. Like, I feel like my normal state right now is really calm and serene, which, as those of you that know me well, that's not my normal state. And it's really cool to be like, wow, this is neat to actually always be like this. I could be like this all the time. It's kind of cool. So that's where I'm at. I was like, okay, I want to keep sustaining this and not be, I want to be always like this. So, and I know that's not realistic, but that's my new goal.
That's actually that is the practical and pragmatic goal of meditation, is that we become these qualities and virtues that we're practicing, and it starts to become kind of dyed in the wool. If that expression means anything to you. Mm-hmm. Thank you. Well, that's great. I'm so glad that it's working for you. And that is awesome that you're doing the mantra, the meditation. And I like what you said too. There was something that you kind of went over fast, but there is an interesting thing that when you work out and then meditate,
yeah,
is the way that, in the traditional sense, that it's designed. So even if you're just talking about yoga, the asana always comes before the meditation.
Yeah.
But it also depends on what time of day. I definitely, when I was in a training in Austin and we, started at 6 a.m., we started with meditation in the morning, and then we moved slowly into asana. So I'd be curious to see if any of that changes for you or anybody else, or if there's any difference for anybody else in terms of your relationship to pairing it with any other kind of movement or other things in your life. Yeah. Thank you. Who would like to go next, please? Olivia, I saw your hand go up first.
Hi, I'm Olivia. Sorry, I missed the first class. Thanks for having me, even though it's late. I have some experience with meditation, and it's normally after yoga. So this was kind of a challenge for me to do meditation without movement. Kind of like what you were referring to, Austin, just now. My first meditation was a disaster, I'll be honest. It was really difficult for me to sit still. And then I logged in with Kristen on Monday, and that was a lot better. I was still fighting with myself a little bit. I'm just hoping that I can get to a place where I am there and okay with being still and okay with being there. Mm-hmm. And yeah.
So let me ask you, because last week, one thing that we did spend some time focusing on was our why, what we want to achieve from the practice. So the idea is that becomes the focus of our motivation. The operating mechanism is a positive thing. So we say to ourselves, so my example I kept saying last week was joy. And so I meditate because I want to be in a state of joy as much as possible. And so rather than the mind going, oh, I have to meditate so I can come to joy, I think to myself, I get to meditate so I can practice getting closer to joy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I did watch the video, and mine was clarity, which was funny because all sorts of random thoughts kind of came up. But, I tried my best to let it pass. But I think meditating more on the why is probably where I need to be a little bit more So
Yeah, because with something like clarity out, my first thought is why? Why do you want clarity? What will clarity bring you? You know,
direction, I suppose, and joy.
okay.
Direction.
Yeah. So yeah, because sometimes we get our sankalpa is what this is called, and it's not quite all the way to the root of it, and if it's not really serving us, we kind of have to continue to wrestle with it to
Okay.
really get down to the deeper layers of what our heart's desire is, and that's an interesting thing because a lot of times some people they misquote yoga by thinking our desires are a bad thing, right? But there's a difference between our unconscious kind of default desires, like we were talking about the default mode network. When we're in a mindless state, that's not the same kind of desire as what I'm talking about. I'm talking about when you are fully alive, when you're fully aware and fully awake. What is your desire then? And that can be a hard thing to access when you're coming out from a place of like, I'm trying to get to that fully awake place. And so clarity to me feels like there needs to be some more digging around that for you.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm ready. I'm here for it.
Cool. I mean, my first thought is clarity brings peace, because I know when I was in my 20s, I had no clarity about what I was going to do with my life. I just wanted to know so bad. And really, why did I want to know? Because I just wanted to feel that sense of harmony. That was really what I was looking for. It wasn't so much the clarity, it was the thing the clarity would give me. So thank you.
It's really
Thank you so
interesting.
much.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
great to have you here. Glad you could make it this week. Who would like to go next? Lauren, hi. Pop on in.
Takes me a second to unmute. So I was able to practice at least one time a day, sometimes 2 times a day. But I was really so I guess I was gentle with myself in that regard. And also because I struggle with perfectionism quite a bit. So it's like, sometimes I get very rigid and I have to do it this time and whatnot. But I was able to be more loose with it. Okay, I will either do it sometime in the morning or sometime in the evening. And if I don't get to it in the morning, then try to work it in when I can. And so that worked really well for me. And I was able to at least do it in the morning and in the evening most times, just not. I also had to do some kind of exercise before. Can you hear me?
Yeah, it just kind of it's going in and out a little bit.
Okay, let me plug myself in.
It seemed like maybe the connection was.
Is that better?
That is better.
Okay, yeah, I've heard that it's not easy to hear me without my headset. So anyway, I was able to have grace and gentleness with myself about the timing of it, but I definitely had to exercise beforehand because I have knee issues and all kinds of aches and pains and stuff, but when I'm able to exercise, it helped settle my body so I didn't have restless legs or an achy body. So which it also helped me feel like I was able to focus more. I did do a guided meditation every time, but except last night, which was probably not the time to do it at night. I tried to do it on my own and I was just so relaxed. I kept dozing off. So, but I find that I have to have guidance because I know this about myself when it comes to praying and stuff like that. I have to write my prayers and things because my mind wanders so much. I use it as a focus point. So sometimes I guess I get worried that I'm not going to be able to bring myself back on track if I stay in my head while I'm meditating. So
Very
that's
good. I mean,
where I am.
it just sounds like you're really creating a relationship with your practice in some ways that are allowing you to really work with what is, and know yourself and know what you need. You know, it is an interesting thing. There is science to it. Like, if you work out, you're going to release that inner, you know, chemical cocktail, all these wonderful things, you know, endocannabinoids, serotonin, oxytocin, you know, all these wonderful things that make us feel good. So then if we can sit in that space and really marinate in it, absorb it, it's pretty smart that somebody figured out that a long time ago. But also, yeah, the guidance thing is, yeah, I think that's a really common thing for most people.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's one thing that separates yoga meditation from Zen meditation. So there's a couple different styles of Buddhist meditation, but yoga meditation is about taking the different faculties of attention and directing them towards an object and focus. And we're going to kind of start to layer that on a little bit more as we get into this. So it becomes more of a self-guidance kind of thing. But that takes a discipline too, and some people struggle with that. Some people need that imposition of an actual separate nervous system being kind of transplanted onto them for them to be able to really reach that state. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. My mind is very active, so it's like I could think about things all day long, and trying to get a focus on those things is what's
Awesome. Well, thanks. Appreciate you. And I also really appreciate the writing, the journal questions and stuff like that. Thanks for sharing that. That was really nice. So way to go above and beyond. Who would like to go next, please? Angie, come on in, bud.
Okay, is that it?
That's it.
Okay, hi everybody. It's Angie here. How you doing? I had a really good week personally with this project. I'm doing the mantra challenge too, so it kind of helps me to put both together. And I do the mantra and I feel really buzzy and groovy after that. So then I can kind of go into that mindset of just continuing to sit there in the shavasana, mental shavasana is kind of what I think of it as. But I didn't do it every day, and that's okay. I forgave myself for that, because the time and the times that I did do it, I really put some quality focus into my practice, and I tried different things like, you know, do I like voices talking to me, or do I like straight up meditation music, or do I like silence, you know, and how could I get into that deeper zone? And then I had to try to you know, I go into it in the way what I want to do it right now is, you know, I'm kind of in a creative state. So when I go into meditation, I'm always thinking ahead of what I want, what do I see, how do I want to change my life, and I get into these groovy places where I'm like, oh yeah, that would be so nice, and that'd be great. And I'm like, you know, this time I'm going to settle back down into being right here, right now. You know, I can hear the dogs walking around. What's the sound of the cars outside? But really try to bring my focus in. And that helped quite a bit to keep my fantasies from confusing my fantasies with meditation, and, you know, confusing that I want product, you know, I want results. I want my left brain wants to go. And it's like, no, calm down a little bit. So staying present, you know, was something that I tried really hard for. And on my last meditation, I was able to get really deep into that inward zone. And for the first time ever, at the end of it, it was like I heard a voice in my head that I didn't think was mine. And I was like, wow, that was so great, because my talking voice and my ego voice, they suck, you know, they're always talking to me, and I want to shut them down. And for the first time, I was like, that was not my ego voice. That was an inner feeling, and it was clear as a bell, you know, the voice. And so I was like, okay, this is great. And now I'm excited to go back and talk to the inside of myself instead of the outside of myself again.
Did it say anything significant or that you would be willing to share?
It said you should write a blog. And then I got an email from an old friend today, a couple days ago, and I replied to him. And the first thing he wrote back was, "I love the way you write." And then one of my doggy clients came over, and I was like, yeah, I'm looking to do a lot of changing in my life and everything. I'm, looking for this and looking for that. And she goes, you write really well. And I'm just going, whoa, what is this? Where just encouragement comes to you at all levels. And normally I would just be like, I don't feel like writing, and I kind of blow it off. But now I'm kind of like, okay, these are things that either, I'm drawing to myself or, stimulus from the energy of the universe. I have no idea, but it's really cool, the synchronicities that I'm finding that are happening in my outside life that I feel are also a product that I'm just more in tune to receive that. The chanting is awesome. It really kind of just puts me right into that zone of receivership. And that is what I want, that's what I need and why I'm doing this right now. So I'm psyched.
Nice. And
That was so cool to hear, by the way. Like it was really cool. Sorry, Austin, to cut you off.
Yeah, no. I just want to acknowledge that I've known you for a long time, and to receive that insight is a gift at any point in your life. But I also know that you have earned it because you've been really diligent about your practice. You've been really doing a lot of work.
Oh, thanks,
with
Austin.
yourself to get to this point. So like you definitely have earned that. And so congratulations.
Thank you.
Exciting
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty excited.
That's huge. Yeah. Very cool. All right, who'd like to go next? Peggy, please. Let's unmute you here. Oh, doesn't look like I'm able to unmute you. If you click on your box there, there's a little microphone. There you go.
Got it.
Yeah.
I want to be where Angie is.
We all do.
I did it pretty much every day, and I think I get too in my mind that I want to be able to, I'm trying to focus too much on, okay, I need to get to where I'm totally where this is supposed to be. And I mean, I've been doing it for all of a week, but I think I need to just kind of relax and let it happen as it'll happen.
Yeah. Yeah, enjoy it.
Yeah.
Have you had moments that you've enjoyed the experience?
Yeah, somewhat. It calms me down some.
Mm-hmm.
So
start to allow yourself to find moments during your practice that you're just allowing yourself to enjoy what is.
mm-hmm.
Is this of now? I think that is, we kind of hear stories like Angie's, and that's what gets people to motivated to meditate.
Mm-hmm.
But that is like a blip on a long timeline of practice. Like I said, like Angie's been practicing. She's dedicated for a long time now with her yoga practice to show up like this, and I can tell you, I know Kristen and I have both had similar experiences to Angie, and they're wonderful, but they don't, it's definitely not they're treats along the way. And what you find is that the pulp of the practice really is being able to enjoy it in the moment, regardless of if those little insights are firing you up and lighting you up, or if it's like, whoa, this is really making me go through some, whatever it might be, grief or whatever, I mean, one of the beautiful gifts yoga gives us is this, like I said, this is open monitoring. So when we open ourselves as a channel, it's a two-way channel. And this is an interesting thing because when you're open, not only is that revealing the potential to release something, but it's also allowing the possibility to receive something. But it works in tandem. And so really the beginning has to be about the release, and we can't let go of, and I was telling Erica this today, we're not capable of letting go of that which we have not yet fully accepted. And we talk about this a lot in yoga and meditation, this idea of detachment, surrender, letting go. And boy, I'll tell you, if you could just let go of something by sheer will, like willpower, now I'd be master at it. But that's not how letting go works. The first step of letting go of whatever it is, even if it's just expectations about what the practice will be, is accepting what my expectations are and saying, well, what do I expect to have happen here? And then understanding the boundaries of that, the borders of that, gives us that little bit of framework to be able to realize, oh, that is not us. And there is a dividing line, there's a boundary there. And from there, it starts to dismantle from us. But only when we recognize the shape and the size of it, really, and call it into definition by name, if that makes sense. Yeah. So good. You're right where you're supposed to be.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Good job this week. Okay, who'd like to go next? Heather, hi. Come on in.
Hi. I wanted to go next because what you just said, and I think that resonates with me a lot. Goodness. Honestly, this is like my 748th time trying to do a meditation practice since I was like 17 years old. I don't know. I really don't have an answer for it. I sometimes can do it for weeks or months, and sometimes it's 2 days, and then I'm like, not forget, it just moves. I don't know how to explain it. But I'm not giving up. I'll keep trying these. I'll be 80 and trying to improve my meditation practice. But this last whole year has been all about like letting go and just, I don't know. I'm taking philosophy class with Amber too, which is one of the only, I'm really bad with structure. So it's one of the only things that I really have great structure with right now in my life. And even today I missed my favorite yoga class, the slow and steady, because I was out here in the garden. So, I mean, give and take, but I'm trying to be gentle. I meditated 3 days this week. So that's not great, but, and last week I just forgot to put this on my calendar. So it's not like I mean to be flighty. It's one of those things that I'm always balancing in my life, and learning what to let go is just a huge thing. And if I'm angry at myself about meditation, how is that going to bring me joy? Do you know what I mean? So that's all.
And I love that underneath everything you said, that there's this undying commitment to something that you see that this will bring you. And that's really what is required for a pupil to be apt with any of this stuff. To receive any of the benefits, you have to have the enthusiasm there. So it's just a matter of, once you dial in over time, when it is time for you, consistency, and you can stretch that out over a long period of time, you'll find that that's a lot easier to actually dial in than enthusiasm. It's way harder to manufacture enthusiasm for a practice like this. So you're really kind of lucky to have that as your starting block.
Thank you very much.
Just a matter of getting out of your own way sometimes, Okay, who'd like to go next? Kelly, I saw you there first, and then Katie will go over there.
Hi, everybody. I'm Kelly. I said last week that this was kind of more just a curiosity thing for me, so I'm not necessarily expecting to suddenly be awesome with meditating every day, but I did it, I think 3 days this week. I definitely get agitated very easily and very quickly when I'm meditating. I think it has to do with focusing on the posture and the breath both, because I definitely have a problem with, in a yoga class, if we do the alternate nostril breathing, I get super agitated while I'm doing that. So, and it's this can't be over fast enough. And it's not that bad with meditation, but I definitely just start getting antsy, and I definitely notice the same thing as Lauren, where I really need guidance while I'm doing it. That helps me to focus on that more than on if I'm feeling annoyed by what I'm doing or something. And then I also found that lying on my back helps a lot because it's easier to breathe then. And so I can do the breath, the circular breath or whatever it is for, or I can do that a lot more easily, so I don't have to focus on it quite as much. And then I don't have to focus on my posture, and I can focus more on the sensory aspect. So
Nice. Well, those are some massive wins to learn that about yourself that early on. You know, I mean, but also that's what it's about, you know, really is learning your own mind and understanding like, okay, I need to lay down, and okay, I need guidance. And by the way, this makes me agitated. But then rather than walk away from that friction, get curious. That's the point where I want to encourage you to start to get curious, because what, you know, it brings up a couple things to mind. One is, what can you do with that agitation? Because I wonder if there's some place in your life outside of sitting with yourself that you don't let yourself get agitated. And maybe that could serve you. So a lot of times what happens with meditation is the ways in which we repress ourselves in social or public ways, and we all do it. We all do it to some extent. The way those things are kind of held underwater like a ball, then we get in meditation and it's like, bloop, it drops right up to the surface. And we're like, hey, like I was holding you away from them so they wouldn't have to deal with this. And now I'm sitting here to meditate, to take care of myself. And you're popping up right in my face, you know? So on one hand, it's worth looking at what's underneath that. But on the other hand, sometimes those things can be gifts to have that agitation, to say, okay, now how can I take this off my cushion? And where in my life outside of this do I need to apply this so it can really stretch its legs and not be, and be an agent of energy for me rather than against me? Because if it's showing up, there's a reason for it, and it's justified. Some part of you is justifying allowing it to be there that isn't translating on the outside. And it might be worth exploring, and I might be way off base. So, you know, take it or leave it, but that's just a thought. Thank you. Okay, Katie.
Okay. I'm Katie, and I wasn't here last week, so I watched the video, and I thank you all for welcoming me in tonight. So I've been, since we've been stay at home, I've been doing asana every morning at 9 o'clock, and then I meditate, and then I've been taking Amber and Erica's 40-day challenge. So that's kind of my little system every single morning, and I really look forward to that. But then it kind of started getting a little like predictable. Like I felt like I needed to mix it up a little bit so especially during meditation and chanting. And I started getting a bit of a monkey brain because of it. So I just gave myself permission to open my eyes. And many times when I open my eyes, I don't know if this is odd or not, but I can meditate easier when my eyes are open. I kind of get lost in something, like I'll get lost in the clouds or get lost in a bird flying by. And that's when that's when my monkey brain goes away. And the next thing I know, 10 minutes have gone by and I haven't thought of anything except watching, you know, the hawks swoop in front of me or something. So that's kind of where I am right now. And my intention was like a peaceful calmness. And yeah.
Nice. Well, thank you. I'm so glad you're here, Katie.
Thank
and
you.
You have been awesome. It's been great to see you so frequently. You've been as dedicated as anybody in this weird time where online yoga presents, you know, benefits and other challenges.
I appreciate you guys so much. I can't even tell you how much I appreciate it.
Well, you've got a nice little partner there for yoga too. Your dog is always down to yoga. That's, I mean, talk about a gift in life. Like that dog is always like, let's do yoga.
Yeah.
You know, the thing with the eyes open and things like that, that is a absolutely valid form of meditation. And, you know, that's, if that works for you to get the mind into a flow state and forget about the self, you know, I mean, ultimately, like I said, what we're trying to do is have experiences that with the mind that we are experiences that we're designing from a standpoint of our heart's desire. So if we want to feel peace, we want to feel calm, we're designing these experiences for our mind to enter into them without any effort and to actually rest in that space. And the longer we can stay in that space, the more it becomes, as I'll use the expression again, the more it becomes dyed in the wool. So if you need to open your eyes, to find that flow state, to forget the self, feel that peaceful calm as you watch the birds fly, and then 30 minutes go by and you're like, whoa, where did the last 30 minutes go by? Just because the time went by like that, what you have to understand is you're creating a neural pathway over that length of time that is reinforcing something that is connecting you to your heart's desire. And so that's really a humongous success in meditation. Like, I know that there's this like highfalutin goal of like enlightenment, but that's just there so we can say that there's an endpoint to it. It really has 0.001 to do with everybody else's meditation practice in the rest of the world for all human history. Everything else is about what you just described. It's just letting the mind marinate in those experiences that we're trying to design for our mind so that it connects with our heart's desire in a way that gives a sense of spaciousness and freedom and openness. Yeah. So you're probably a lot more masterful than you think. But the fact that you're questioning it is a wonderful thing. And it also shows your humility. So I'm glad you're here.
Thank you. Thanks.
Yeah. Okay. Who would like to go next? Samantha, did you just raise your hand? She's like, you know I didn't.
No, I did not. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. I have to say first, thank you so much, Kristen. That was exactly the meditation I needed today. I have had a very frustrating day, so I needed that, and it was perfect, and I feel much lighter now. I don't know what I want to say. I've been meditating every day. I've had a mostly daily meditation practice for a long time, though, but I feel like the past week I think I've been questioning the meditations that I've been doing and wondering why I do them. And then, so this week I've tried to change that a little bit. And that's been frustrating, trying to change what I'm doing a little bit. Then I thought, instead of when I was getting frustrated, I was kind of getting irritated with myself mostly. And I don't know, I guess I decided to get over that a few days ago and just do whatever I felt like I needed to do in my meditation instead of trying to make it one certain thing. And like Katie, I love that. I love to be outside and meditate. And sometimes the movement of the leaves and the trees and stuff, it's mesmerizing. And I can just sit there forever and look at that. So I love that kind of stuff. But I don't know what I want to say. I'm trying to look at why I do what I do. But I think overall, just something that I guess that I want to share is that I think for the few people who maybe know me well, I have gone through a tremendous change in the past couple of years. I don't know if it's obvious to anybody else, and I think that is my yoga practice overall, but I think especially meditation. And sometimes I'm sitting in meditation and I may think that I've got this one area of my life all figured out, and then I'm just like smacked in the head with some realization of a deeper aspect of that thing, and somewhere where I'm like self-sabotaging or something, and it's just like a wake-up call of, oh, wow, okay, I am letting the mean girl get to me in that way. Whereas I thought, I've shut her up for a while, but I don't know. So I'm just rambling on, and I think I'll stop now. It's the day. I've had a hard day. I don't know what I'm doing anymore.
Well, you do have a very experienced meditation practice, and I think that knowing also what's going on in your immediate life, in just the last couple of months, let alone the last 2 years of transformation that you've gone through, which have been massive, the stuff in the last couple of months probably is requiring you to start to shift your practice a little bit for some of the purposes of, there comes a point where we develop what's kind of called the nest of our practice, right? Where it's our safe space in our practice. And then something happens in our life that requires us to take the trust that we have in that safe space that we've created, and we actually have to start to, in a way, kind of tear down the walls of it and really test it in the real world. And that oftentimes when that happens, it requires us to change what necessitates, what necessities we need from the practice. So it probably is going to change that. But yeah, I mean, you're just awesome. That's all. You're just awesome. I adore you. Yeah. Kristen, did you want to add on? I feel like you.
Oh, I've got stuff that applies to everybody, but I'll let you all get through all that and then we'll talk.
Okay, Anna.
Hey, here's Loco. Hello, Cat. He just likes to be close. Yeah, I struggle to remember to meditate every day. I was trying to do a morning and an evening because I've meditated before and I didn't ever have a specific time when I did. I kind of wanted to see what felt better or what fit better with my day. I kind of went half and half. Like I would remember in the morning or I'd remember in the evening, but I wouldn't usually remember both. So that's okay. The morning was easier for me. I don't need any kind of exercise. I guess if I just do it pre-coffee, I'm kind of still calm and sleepy. I slide into my little yoga room and just sit with myself. I didn't try to do anything guided. I just put on some playlists I like to listen to on Spotify that are calming. And I just set a timer and just would sit there. So I was really challenging myself to see how that would feel without the guidance of a guided meditation, because I do love guided meditations. Shutting oh, place. So my favorite evening practice this week was actually, I went hiking, St. Mary's Falls. I'd never been up there, and was with some friends, and they were down lower, and I got up near that waterfall and was just like, yeah, this is where I'm doing my meditation. And I sat down, and I was a little self-conscious because I knew my friends were down there, and I'm like, okay, well, if they'll see me or not, whatever, I don't care. And I just closed my eyes and I tried to clear out worrying about anybody seeing me and worrying about what it must look like, and just, listening to the water and trying to calm my mind. And it was lovely. And they did see me, and then they were like, oh, she's in her place, leave her alone. So it's been good, and I look forward to continuing to explore it moving forward.
Awesome. Very good. Cool. Well, last but not least, Erica, do you have anything you want to share tonight?
Hi, yeah, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
I'm so sorry I was late. I thought this started at 6, which is really funny because earlier today I was like, I feel like this is really making me into an adult. And I'm never late to things. But that kind of explains where I'm at in life. So I feel Kelly, who said, yeah, just like really agitated. And that's sometimes, it's funny because I'm doing the mantra group as well. And like mantra has really been my primary practice for a couple of years now almost. And I feel this shift too, and I feel myself fighting it because like the Pratyahara meditation that I've been doing this week has felt so much more comfortable and comforting. I've like been doing my mantra and then afterwards the meditation, and it's just really interesting to feel things shifting that I don't really feel like I've accepted yet. So I'll be interested to see where that goes from here. I've been meditating in the mornings, and I have like a thing every morning that I've got to do, and so there's always like this just like weird time pressure. But on Sunday I did it in the evening, and I didn't set my timer. I was like, I'm just gonna go, and I went for like 2 or 3 times as long as I normally do, and it just felt like so much better. So I'm trying to work it in instead of doing it in the mornings, especially because I don't feel fully alert yet, to find just times of the day where I have larger pockets and I don't have to worry about time and just see where it goes. So that feels a lot better. So.
All right. Nice. Thanks. Well, Kristen, did you have anything you want to add on to any of that before we move into tonight?
Yeah, one of the things, and it's like kind of a theme here with everyone as I'm listening to you all, you know, some of you are really struggling and it's really frustrating, and then others of you are having this really great experience that you want to keep having, right? And so that kind of pulls us into what we're going to talk about tonight a little bit, with this idea of attachment and aversion. And so I encourage you all, as you're going through your meditations, if you find that you're grasping at the idea of what you want it to be, to let that go, right? And if you're hesitant to do it because of what you fear it's going to be, let that go, right? Because we have this push-pull of, well, I like that experience that I just had and I want more of that experience, or I don't like that experience and I don't want any more of that experience. And that'll kind of set you up for failure, because the good thing is always going to go away and the bad thing is always going to pop up, right? And it goes in cycles. But on that same vein, you don't want to, like Kelly was saying, you know, if it's really agitating you and really just kicking your mind up and you're not able to focus, let it go, right? Walk away from it, take some time, take some breaths, and then come back to it when you feel calm. So maybe it's, you know, a walk in nature, or maybe it is a physical practice that you need, or, you know, spend time with someone that you care about, or, you know, pet, your dog or your cat, but do something that is going to help you to find a calmer space. So yeah, don't feel like you have to push through. Sitting through discomfort is a good thing, but don't feel like you have to push through a thing that's really, you know, poking the bear, so to speak, right? To, you know, overcome something, because you're not going to. It's just going to keep agitating you. So just keep those things in mind as you go through your practice this week. You know, am I grasping onto the thing that I want to happen, or am I pushing away because there's something that happens that I don't like? And kind of let it just settle. And, you know, Austin mentioned the word equanimity. And so that's really the space that we want to get to with our meditation practice. Make sense? Cool.
Thanks. That was really helpful.
Good.
All right. So tonight's topic, there's going to be some different topics that unfold out of this, but the umbrella topic is this word called dharana. And as I mentioned, it's the 6th limb of yoga, 6th out of 8. And it means concentration. So we're really shifting the practice this week, just for experimental purposes. And by the way, you know, the approach is really loose, meaning if week 1, you're like, oh, I found my practice, this is where I need to be, stay with the open monitoring. You know, if that works, I mean, try this, you know, give it a shot, but if it doesn't work, then go back. So the difference here is week one, it was all about opening yourself up, right? On the inside, creating space inwardly. And this week, Dharana really focuses on using meditation as a locus of mental control and focus and concentration. So this is definitely one where you will be, if you're tired, it's hard, you know? Whereas like an open meditation, if you're tired, sometimes it can be really nice. Like after a really vigorous physical workout, to sit in an open monitoring meditation and to just like be like, okay, I'm with whatever comes, is so easy and so nice. But when we're starting to concentrate the mind, we shape it in a different way. So there was this meditation teacher named Rumi, who was one of my first meditation teachers. I had this old cassette that I got probably when I was like 15, 16 at the Ark. I used to do a lot of shopping at the Ark. I grew up in the 90s with the grunge movement. You guys remember Nirvana? Anybody? Am I too old? Okay. So anyway, used to buy a lot of stuff at the Ark. I don't know how I got this tape. It was called Entering Infinity. And it left such an impression on me after it that I like named my band Enter the Infinite. And we used to play in loud clubs, and they'd be like, what's the name of your band? And I go, Enter the Infinite. And they'd go, get on the internet. I'm like, no, Enter the Infinite. And they'd say something, you know, it just never worked out. So we didn't keep that name. But a fundamental concept that came from this tape was really brilliant. And so Rumi would try to explain to Westerners in the 60s the basics of high-level meditation, which is using your mind in a state of recollection. So we can say anything's meditation, like zoning out on the clouds or whatever is meditation. But meditation in terms of its formal traditional sense is really well defined by this concept of recollection. And so how he would illustrate this he would use this metaphor of, say you lost your keys, right? You lose your keys, you're wondering where your keys are. Well, your mind operates on two different levels. On one, it operates in an episodic memory type, where you're trying to remember, where did I see my keys last? And this is a focused, controlled, like, this is the narrow point of the mind. You're really trying to zone in on, where did I see my keys last? Well, your mind, you have two different types of memory, both short-term and long-term memory, episodic and semantic memory, okay? Semantic memory is the open end of this fine point. And semantic memory is the part of your brain that is asking, all the while you're asking this one specific question, where did I leave my keys the last time I saw it? You're also asking this question, where on earth could I possibly have left my keys? So one part of the brain is thinking really specifically, where did I actually lose them? And the other part of the brain is, where could they possibly be? And this is recollection. We're recollecting, right? These two functions of episodic memory and semantic memory. And this is meditation. However, it's difficult to get the mind to this place when there's not a dire necessity of, I need my keys so I can get myself to bloody work on time so I don't get, in trouble or whatever it might be. So week one, we're working on this, the big picture of like really just opening up. And that's a really beginner level meditation, but I also hesitate to say that because I think that that's not a fair assessment, because beginner, expert, whatever's easiest for you is going to be beginner, right? Maybe it's easier for you to concentrate your mind on a single point of meditation and focus on that single thing. Well, in that case, that's beginner, and the thing that's more advanced is the thing you're not so good at, and that's being open. So anyway, all that to say is last week was about using the openness of the mind. This week will be about controlling the mind. Well, not so much controlling the mind, but working with the mind, because we can't control the mind. Controlling the mind, it's a wild animal. You've all heard the metaphor of the monkey mind. I think somebody said it tonight. They said, oh, I've got my monkey mind. Well, that comes from an old story about there's an old Buddhist story about the monkey mind. Have you heard this? Where, trying to train the mind is like trying to train a monkey. And the way that the monks would illustrate this was they would put these cages in the forest. And the cages had these bars around it, around the perimeter, to where you could reach your hand in to reach for the treats. They would leave like some kind of, I don't know, some kind of thing a monkey would want. I don't even remember what it is in the original story. But as soon as you would grab onto the thing, so it was just narrow enough to get your hand in, but when you grabbed onto the thing, you couldn't pull it out. And this is the way that you, in essence, entrap the monkey mind. Because when the monkey mind doesn't have an object to focus on, when it doesn't have a locus of control, it bounces all over the place. So the objects that we're going to experiment with controlling the concentration and the great power of focus that the mind has the potential for this week is the technique of mindfulness. And going back to Rolf Gates, who I quote a lot because he's just one of my favorite yoga teachers and meditation teachers, he talks about mindfulness in some pretty peculiar and interesting ways. So I guess let's open it up to talk about what mindfulness is a little bit. So you've all probably heard the term mindfulness, right? And yeah, we were being mindful this last week, right? But I think that we can take mindfulness to the next step in the way of trying to really bring ourselves into the moment. So mindfulness can be defined a lot of different ways, but we're going to just kind of keep an overarching definition to keep it kind of simple and objectified, in that really what we mean by mindfulness is trying to get present, trying to be with what is. And the tricky part about this is that it can feel really similar to what we were doing last week, because they're not necessarily mutually exclusive. But to come back to what Rolf Gates was saying is that mindfulness is a practice of becoming present. Now, why is it so hard to become present? First of all, if it were easy to become present, we wouldn't be talking about it, right? I would just say to you, get present. Problem is that humans are hardwired, designed to either spend their energy focusing on past-oriented perspective or future-oriented perspective. When we're past-oriented perspective, we're usually, when that's negatively expressed, we're worried, we have resentment and remorse building, or shame or guilt, these kinds of things. When we're negatively expressed in our future-oriented perspective, that's anxiety, that's worry, that can be paranoia, these kinds of things. And I think it's logical that most of us spend most of our time either thinking about what we just did or what we're going to do next, because it doesn't seem like there's a lot of bandwidth where the present moment exists. It seems very thin because we're looking at it almost two-dimensionally. We're really defining the present moment basically where the future ends and the present ends. But that's one perspective on this multidimensional thing, which is the present, and it's much deeper. And that's the purpose of really a mindfulness practice, is to create a perspective that allows us to see the liminal space within the present moment. Okay, you know what liminal means? It means exposing the true depth of something. There's this book called Siddhartha by Hermann Hesse. Has anybody ever read that book? Yeah, one of my favorite books. Probably read that book like 10 times. There's this moment, though, where Siddhartha is standing by the river, and he's looking at the river in front of him, and he says, he has this moment where he's like, okay, that's the present. And he looks up at the river that's flowing towards him, and he says, oh, that's the future, right? Because it's coming at me. And he looks down the river, and he says, oh, that's the past, because that's the river that has already passed me. And then he has this hugely profound insight and realizes, but all of this is the river. So that's what I mean by the liminal moment, is that when we're trying to become present to the moment, when we're trying to find a mindfulness in the moment, it's liminal because time is a construct. Time is man-made. Time doesn't exist when we get into this liminal space of mindfulness and presence. And we realize when we can actually tap into being mindful in the present moment that we are of the moment. So it's not like we're trying to find the moment and there it's gone, and the moment and there it's gone. We actually click into this kind of special human talent that allows us to go into this gear that normally we don't operate in. So like we were talking about last week, this whole idea of the default mode network, where the brain is just kind of in its operational mode of getting through the to-das and the ta-das of the day, right? We're trying to finish up our tasks so that we can go home and watch the thing to relax and unwind and do whatever, right? And this mind, as Kristen was saying, this is a mind that is obsessed with preferences, whether it's aversion or desire, whether it's our cravings or our repulsions. When we can drop the superficial desires of our life, start to tap deeper into our heart's desire, we have a greater potential to access this space that I'm talking about, where time doesn't matter and space doesn't matter. So, all that to say, we've got some meditation techniques that will hopefully help you experience this, because we could talk about it till we're blue in the face, and I think it's super fun to talk about, but it can also make your eyes kind of tangle in knots and your brain go, wait, but if it's not the present, it's not the past, the future, and it is if everything's the present, then what is the future and the past, right? We're limited as human beings. We have to limit our perspective of reality. If we were to exist in a state of pure potentiality and possibility all the time, nothing would mean anything. It's like that whole idea of like, well, I do my yoga when I do this. If everything's yoga, nothing's yoga. So we have to eventually define things, right? So that we can interface with them. And that conversation that we have with those horizons, that's the most meaningful thing of our life. But when we can shift into a state where we're the author of those horizons, where we're the ones creating the meaning in those boundaries, that's where things start to really become empowering for us. And that's really kind of the purpose of this meditation, is so that we can kind of take the power back in our life, so that, we can say, okay, the experience of this meditation, it might be agitation, but you know what? How is that agitation being underwritten? And yes, it may be uncomfortable at first, but I might be able to, by staying with it and being present with it long enough and with enough focus and concentration, I may be able to change my relationship with that agitation to where I can actually use that anger to fuel maybe forward progress, or maybe some energy towards something I'm working on in my life to manifest, or whatever it might be. Does any of that make sense? You're like, I don't know. Let's go back to the first question. Have you heard of the word mindfulness? Okay, good. Heather, you have a question or a statement?
Can I just say something really quick though?
Yeah.
Okay. So I've actually heard of the liminal, and when we're concentrating on it, is actually, I've heard the liminal is explained more of a web, like a spider's web. Yeah. And it's like, we're the spiders when we're meditating, and you just have to concentrate on that one little string coming out of your butt, at that time, because all those other strings are the past and they might break, and you're going to always have to build more strings, but it's that one line.
Yeah.
So if that's off base, okay, but I heard someone say that a while ago.
I think you can get to a point where you're talking about the present in a way where your mind logically, rationally understands it on a very simple level. But what I hope that you will challenge yourself with this week is an opportunity to experience the present. It's a very different idea to conceptualize the present moment and to experience the present moment. Okay. And this, you know, what's fun about conceptualizing it, there's a poetry in idealizing what the present is and the profundity of it. But experiencing as this is, well, I'll just tell you the benefits according to the ancient yogic literature. When we focus the mind in a way that concentrates, essentially using mindfulness to focus the mind to a sharp point and experiencing the present moment, we start to develop side effects, and the benefits of which are self-reliance, peacefulness, and this is a really big one, finding comfort in uncertainty. This is the true line of demarcation between somebody who is spiritually mature and who is not spiritually mature. And I hate using that because it makes it sound like, you know, one is better than the other. And, you know, but that's where we're all headed. We're all gonna, you know, here's the thing, we're all humans, people. We were all born and we're all gonna die. There is a level of uncertainty that we deal with on a daily basis that we have to apply a certain degree of blind spot filtration. If we lived every day, every moment with the full realization that we're going to die at any given time that we are unawares to, it's completely debilitating, paralyzing. But again, we can drop into these practices and start to explore, experiment, and interface with these truths in a way where that same paralyzing knowledge becomes then empowering to us. The fact that we know that we're going to die, when we start to focus on what we have since we're not dead, that is the present moment. And that's what can start to fuel an opening, a blossoming, and like I said, a peacefulness to where, you know, when we find inner peace, I mean, that's where peace comes from. It comes from being able to say, I don't know about that, and it's okay. And then when we get that specific type of peace to operate in our lives, we start to find self-reliance. All of this week is in hopes to help you build familiarity with what's called the gap. And that gap is everything we're talking about. That's liminal space. That's the present moment. That is the dividing line between the past and the future. It's called the gap. And a lot of times you'll hear meditators say, oh, it took me a while to drop in. And that's what they mean by that, is to drop into the gap where time stops. It no longer has a function on you in normal ways. And, you know, it would do well for us to remember that a lot of the ways in which we relate to time is all preconditioned constructs, right? It's pre-existing beliefs. We didn't look at a clock when we were babies and say, oh, I totally get that, right? We had to have time explained to us, and even time on all these different cycles. You know, you've got the second, the minute, the hour, the day, the week, the month, the seasons of your life, the epochs of your life, the decades of your life. You know, that's, for somebody like me who doesn't have children, like, time is really abstract because I have no external, I don't have the thing there showing me how old I am getting. You know what I mean? Like, constantly in my face. And so in a weird way, it's kind of, it sucks because it's kind of like a bit of a bigger shock when I do get awoke to how old I'm getting, you know, because it's not a daily reminder. But let's get into some practices that are going to kind of support this.
Austin, before you go into that, I just wanted to say, for me, it's just so funny you're talking about time, because one of the revelations I had this week with my practice was the fact that I live my life always thinking there's not enough time. And it was like literally on Sunday, I remember thinking like, there's enough time for everything. Like there's always enough time. And I need to like remember that. And now I've been working really hard on shifting my mindset around that. So this is just so like profound to me that you're talking about all of this.
Jen, I'm really curious how you got there. What did it just come up in you that it just popped up?
It just popped up because I remember thinking, oh man, we keep doing whatever we're doing. Like I'm not going to have time to meditate today. And that's the connection I made was like, there's always time to meditate. And then it was kind of like, but there's always time. And kind of, and this is literally like a lifelong thing for me to always believe there's not enough time. I mean, even life, death, I'm like, there's not enough time. I got to get this done. I got to do this. I got to do this. There's not enough time. And it was just so crazy this week. I'm like, there's plenty of time. And now I have this whole new shift.
Mm-hmm. Cheryl, do you want to pop in on that?
I think that's been one of the struggles for a lot of people with the COVID lockdown is these beautiful artificial boxes. Time has gone away. And so now so many people are faced with this lack of structure, which is very disorienting because they're used to living in those blocks of time. So when I went into my second childhood, I went for 5 or 6 years, I didn't wear a watch. I didn't know what time it was because quite frankly, I didn't care. It didn't matter to me. Time was your problem, not my problem. But I think right now, how many, and there are several in this group today who had we were late or almost late tonight because we forgot what day it was. Because again, it's an artificial construct of, we have mutually agreed that today is Tuesday, like that has meaning. But right now, for so many of us, that really, it has no meaning. So the running joke in the retired community is the only day that matters is it's either garbage day or not garbage day. But other than that, it really doesn't matter. But yeah, I think Jen's onto something with that. When you can give up that scarcity mindset around time, then now there's that huge expanse out in front of you that's yours to do with what you will. So, which is both empowering and terrifying. Enough about that.
I love that. You brought a couple things to mind that I just want to piggyback on. One is in yoga, we can qualify that which is real and that which is unreal by the finitude or infinitude of things. Okay? So yoga states if something is infinite, it is real. If something has a beginning and an end, it is not real. Time has, our construct of time has a beginning and end, but the presence, the moment, does not have a beginning and end. Do you understand? What is the moment that we're experiencing here together right now was happening before you were born, and it will happen after you die. So that's the tricky part, because our mind thinks time is presence, but time is the construct interlaced over presence so we can understand it in a way that's neatly packaged and digestible, because understanding presence as it is kind of mind-blowing. That's why we need to sit still and be quiet to be able to interface with it, because it's profound. And you brought up one other thing about the precociousness of this time we're in with COVID. And it is interesting because the day-to-day life for a lot of people has shifted towards a much more simpler way of life, where it's really focused around meals and then doing the dishes. And then you're just like, where did the day go? Like, I'm just kind of like living like I'm semi-retired here all of a sudden. And however, for as simple and maybe mundane as the day-to-day kind of exteriors of life has shifted, the interiors of life have ratcheted up their intensity, because we no longer have these scheduled dates that we're putting all this false importance on to use as distractions or obstacles to have to deal with our feelings. So when you have a day where you wake up and it's day 35 of whatever, and all you're doing is cooking and doing dishes again, and you have a feeling come up, well, you don't have this well, I can't let myself explore that feeling because that might leave me in a ball on the floor crying for a couple hours because at 5 o'clock, I got to be put together and ready to go teach a yoga class or whatever. So you've got this interesting inversion of, whereas I felt like for a lot of people, emotions were muted by the real world, right? And now the real world has gotten kind of flatlined and muted and become somewhat ambiguous. And that has left all this space for all these feelings to become a lot more intense and pertinent. They're demanding. They're saying, hey, you know, all this time you were saying there's not enough time. And because you were saying there was not enough time, you weren't going to deal with me because you had to go get the college degree and have a kid and then get your retirement going and stay, you know, now that all that's, now that the volume is turned down on all that stuff, guess who you got tangled with? Resentment, repression, or, you know, anger or fear or uncertainty. I mean, that's the big one. That's what it all comes down to. I want to briefly go over this bit. This ties into the Four Noble Truths. So we've included the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path in this week's reading, the packet, because mindfulness is kind of the practice of Buddhism. And so the Buddhist philosophy is built on these things. And to quickly just kind of summarize the Four Noble Truths. This was Buddha's big realization. So he's there, if you can imagine, he's at age 40, the age I'm at, dedicated his entire life, left behind a palace and kingdom of riches to go live alongside a river with aesthetics and starve himself to death by eating a grain of rice a day, to the point where he got so weak he almost fell in the river and couldn't get up and almost died, to where he finally found what he called the middle path and went and took everything that he had learned that we know from the books of Siddhartha. He learned how to think, how to wait, and how to fast, right? And he put all those three things together and found this middle way in between the two and had this profound experience under this Bodhi tree and became awakened. That's what Buddha means. Buddha simply just means the awakened one, the person who woke up. When he woke up, he had 4 realizations that he wanted to share with people, because what's really cool about the Buddha is that he lived to 80. So he had 40 years of his life that he became a teacher. So he went all over India and all over Asia teaching. But this was his first teaching, was the Four Noble Truths. This was the primary, most important teaching. Number 1, life involves suffering. Number 2, suffering has a cause. Number 3, if it has a cause, then it must have an end. Again, remember, things that have a beginning must have an end, right? And finally, suffering ceases by the path. And so that's what we're exploring together. We're exploring, and I have a quote here right next to that that says, there are many paths, but there is one peak. There is one mountain, right? And that's what we see with all these spiritual traditions or self-help books or religious traditions. Whatever it is that helps you get to the top of the mountain doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you took the north face, the south face. If you make it there, you made it there. If you tried to make there and didn't make it there, well, you still tried, right? I mean, obviously there's some paths that are better suited for some people and some paths that are better suited for other people. But that's pretty profound if you really think about the fact that, you know, what he's basically saying is that I can see this because it's come to an end for me while I'm alive. So that's what really, when we talk about enlightenment, when we talk about being awakened, that's all it means, is that you get to a point where you've seen your own suffering in your life end. Does it mean suffering ends? No, but your relationship has changed, your situation, your perspective, and your orientation to the natural laws of life have shifted to a way that you're no longer being controlled by them. And I'm going to stop right there. That's enough. Much I'm going to say. All right, Kristen, what do you want to do here?
Well, so I'll break down the meditation that we'll do so you have an idea of what it's going to entail and give you the tools that you'll need as you go through the meditation. So with the mindfulness meditation practice, we're going to build on what we've already done on week 1. So we'll continue using mudra, we'll use posture, and then breath and sense awareness, just a little snippet of it to help settle you. And then adding in drishti, which is your gaze or your focal point, as well as an anchor point, the thing that you're going to come back to when your mind does start to wander. And so with this, in this meditation, know that there will be a point where I will have you open your eyes. So Katie, this will probably be right up your alley, right? If you prefer to have your eyes open through the whole thing, that's fine as well. But at one point, I'll ask you to open your eyes and find a point of focus. So if you want to take a moment to maybe find something that you'd like to use as that focal point, or maybe you have something, it doesn't have to be, you know, a deity or anything like that, but just something that you can kind of gaze at to use that. The mudra that we'll use is very similar to what we did last week. It's the same hand gesture. You just go palms up instead of palms down. And so it's Jnana Mudra. I always struggle with saying that one, so it always comes out differently. But it actually means wisdom. It helps to support clear seeing, right? So it helps to bring you into the present moment. And it also helps to enhance your breath capacity, drawing it up into the upper lungs for you. So you might notice those shifts. The drishti point, it's going to help you focus on that one particular point. So it actually starts to have a calming effect, like Katie was talking about. It actually does help to soothe the monkey mind, if you will. So, questions, anything that you want to know more about? Katie, go for it.
What's the, you said that palms up is our wisdom, right?
Mm-hmm.
What was it when we had them down?
The palms down is for concentration.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. All right. And so, you know, in this now we'll use the breath as the anchor point. And the anchor point is really something for you to draw your focus back to, right? So like I said, we're going to use breath today, but as we go on, we can use different things. You know, some of you are doing the mantra challenge. You could use mantra. You can use a visual object, right? Which is yantra. So the sacred symbols. But it's really about not just the breath itself, but we'll find a focal point with the breath to stay with. And so some of you that may have done more Buddhist, you know, geared meditations might know that we'll either have you focus at the tip of your nostrils or where the chest rises and falls. It gets really tricky because you're going to choose one and then you're going to stay with that for the rest of the meditation, but your mind is going to tell you that you've chosen incorrectly and it's going to try to pull you in different directions. So I encourage you to pick one and stay with it no matter what your mind tries to tell you, okay? So this one might challenge you. And, you know, for those of you that got agitated with simply the breath work and the sense meditation, this might actually soothe that a little bit because it gives you a little bit more to do, a little bit more to focus on to help kind of settle that. So we'll see. You might love it, you might hate it, and that's okay. Shall we try it? All right, so find your seat. Remember, seated tall with your spine erect and supported, but it shouldn't be rigid, it shouldn't be forceful. Giving you the space to allow the breath to find its natural rhythm, finding the most robust breath that you can. When you feel like you've adjusted your seat all that you need, you might take Jnana Mudra. Tips of the thumbs and the first fingers touch, extend the rest of them out, and the backs of your hands rest on your legs. And like I said, during this practice, I'll direct you to open your eyes, but you can begin with them open or allow them to close gently until I direct you to do so. It's your choice now. And just come down into your body, come down into your breath. And take a brief scan of your mind and your body and notice what state you're in currently. And don't allow yourself to attach to any sensations. Simply notice, observe, and allow your breath to deepen. As you settle into that deeper breath, gradually invite in a three-part breath. As you inhale, allow the belly to soften and fill, then the ribs, and finally the upper chest. And as you exhale, release the breath from the top of the chest and the collarbones first, then the ribs, and finally release breath from the belly as you find a gentle tone. Repeat this breath for a few moments. If your mind begins to wander, give it a gentle nudge back to your breath. Slowly allow your breath to return to normal. And begin to sense your body as a whole. Feel all the sensations throughout. Notice as many sensations as you can. The temperature of the air on your skin, the sensation of the clothes against your skin, areas of pressure and lightness. The way your tongue rests in your mouth. Move your eyes behind your eyelids and notice sensations there. Pay attention to any shapes, patterns, or colors that emerge, but don't attach to any of it. Allow the sensations to be there. Notice the light and the shade. Sense the sky above you, the earth below, horizons extending out in all directions. Draw in your other senses, noticing scents, sounds near and in the distance. Notice the ebb and flow and the constant changing nature of sensation. Sense the beating of your heart in your chest. Feel your heartbeat in waves that ripple throughout your body. And try to sense your pulse at different parts of your body. Now draw your focus in on the breath. Allow your mind to focus on the breath at either the tip of the nostrils, where the breath enters and exits the body, or at the center of your chest, where it rises and falls. In a relaxed but clear way here. Choose one of these spots as your object, your anchor, and resist the urge to change your focus. When your mind pulls you in one direction or other, come back to the spot that you focused. As soon as you notice distraction, give it a simple label. Thought. Relax and return to your object, and do this as many times as you need to. Allow your eyes to open, keeping the eyelids relaxed and not straining to find your gaze. Fix your gaze, your drishti, on one point and resist the urge to scan the room. Over time, this will have a calming effect for you. Remember that as your mind pulls you in different directions, notice that you're distracted from your object, from your breath, and draw yourself back. Once again, focus your mind onto your breath, this time paying attention to a specific part of the breath. As you exhale, relax. And then again, as you inhale, relax. The next exhale you take, sharpen your concentration onto the exhale. Feel all the sensations of the breath moving out of the body. And without changing the breath, continue to follow the breath as it leaves your body. Follow it until the very last moment, until you can no longer feel the breath anywhere. And when the breath has finally disappeared, relax and allow the next inhale to come naturally. Noticing the space between the exhale and the inhale. Allow the mind to be as still as this space, the gap. Relax as your body inhales and follow the breath as you exhale. Between the exhale and the inhale, relax and allow the breath to naturally come at its own pace. As you become settled, your mind clear and focused, you may drop the technique, or if you find yourself agitated, you can also drop the technique. Allow yourself to simply be for a few moments. Remain aware of the breath, but you can let go of the work. And if you haven't and you'd like to, you can certainly close your eyes. Once again, become aware of your body. Pay attention to sensations in the body, just as you did before. Feel your heartbeat in your chest. The support below you, the space around you. And take a full inhale through the nose. And as you exhale, press everything out that you can very gently. Take another full breath in. And exhale, release. And then as you're ready, let your eyes flutter open. Maybe make some fidgets in your seat. Drop your chin towards your chest. You can roll your neck side to side or maybe back a little bit. All right. So thoughts on that meditation, that technique? You all look so relaxed now.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Why, like what, yeah, yoga brain, why did we open our eyes? What function, like, does that serve?
So kind of like what Katie was talking about, having that focal point helps to give you, it's another tool, right? So like mantra, like any other tools that you use, whether it's mala, things like that, it's just another tool to give your mind something to anchor onto other than the thoughts swirling around.
Gotcha. Thanks.
It's definitely, definitely better for me. Just to have, maybe I need to try it with my eyes open a little bit more, but just opening my eyes like made me more aware of where I was and where I need to be going. So it's good.
Good. Good. I'm glad.
I have a question.
Carol, you had to pry your eyes open. Go ahead, Lauren.
Oh, sorry. I had a question about the breath. And this actually came to me during the last meditation too, or the last week's meditation of like, I often get confused when we focus on the breath. Am I still supposed to keep that 3-part breath or deep breath going? Or is it like gently, you know, sometimes we start with it, then we let it go to normal, and then sometimes bring it back in again? Like, is that how that works?
Yeah, you'll notice that. So that's just one trick, kind of, so to speak, to get your mind to focus.
Okay.
And then once your mind is settled and we introduce another tool,
okay,
then you can start to let it go and your breath will naturally start to find its own rhythm. What I find difficult with the meditation that we just did for a lot of people is that when I direct you to focus on the exhale, people will tend to try and extend the exhale as long as they possibly could.
Yeah.
The idea is to, so as you're practicing that this week, the idea isn't necessarily to change the breath. Once we settle into that natural rhythm of the breath and let go of the 3-part breath, then your job is to just settle on the visualization of the breath leaving your body, right?
Okay.
So not extending it out.
Okay. That's good. Because I noticed that, like, if I'm not doing the 3-part or the deep breathing, I actually have a shallower, like, because I'm so in this zone, it becomes more shallow actually. So, okay.
Cool.
Thanks.
Yeah, you bet. What else?
Well, for me, that was definitely the type of meditation I think when I first started, that would have been really difficult for me. and agitated me, but I was actually pleased to see that I felt myself dropping in, but kind of like everybody with the mixed feelings about the eyes open and everything. That's something I struggle with. And with the loving kindness stuff I did with Ben, he was always like, he was really focused that we had to keep our eyes open, and that was just the way he taught us. And that was always, I mean, I know it's optional, but that was always a challenge. So it's interesting to see some people are like having really strong experiences with it, and then others are like, no, that's not working. So it's just interesting.
I love it. Just on Friday. Oh, sorry, Kristen.
No, you're good. Go for it.
Just on Friday in the sutras, we were talking about using like a deity, or he uses the moon, right? You know, in the first, at the start, anyways, in the one we were at. And that was my first time though ever trying that. I don't know. It's scary though, actually a little bit. I felt like I was holding my breath because I was trying to scare at an object. So I don't know.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, I don't know. I don't remember what I was going to say.
I think one of the things that helped me, which was kind of odd, is the first thing that I opened my eyes to was actually on Lauren's background. The curtain was blowing in the wind. And so that's one of the first things that I just kind of looked at. And so I was like, okay, I'll just continue looking at it. And actually the movement almost helped. I think if it had been more of a static object, it would have been way easier for me to scan away from it. But then watching it move in the wind, it kind of made me think of what I think it was Katie said about like watching a bird or watching the leaves or something. So I don't know if that was, I don't know, that just seemed to kind of help me focus on it a little bit better. And sorry, Lauren, I just totally was staring at your background.
Creeping on me. I'm just kidding.
Yes.
I love it because it was when the wind just blew in, it was so peaceful and calming, and it just felt like it was like, I was like, this is awesome. It's just flowing and whatnot. So I'm glad it helped you.
Yeah.
Cool. I don't know what's going on, but like, I feel like everybody is freezing. So I don't know if it's my computer or all of you. I suspect it's probably me.
There's a blip in the matrix.
I'm having that too.
It was doing that to me too. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, so I did, before I give you the assignment for this week, Kelly, I wanted to check back in with you and see how that one went today.
Still really agitated with that. I think lying on my back really helps a lot.
Yeah.
I noticed I was focusing a lot on my posture and like my back kind of hurting with sitting up straight and that kind of thing. So I think lying on my back is definitely the way to go.
What a cute kitty, by the way. Oh my God.
She's all over. She's like moving my computer everywhere. And
What's her name?
Phoebe.
Okay. I had a cat that looked a lot like that when I was young. Yeah, reminds me of my kitty Mello. Okay, so yeah, I mean, this week, you know, if week one works better for you, then, you know, really what you need to do is figure out how you're going to cook this up for yourself for this week. So if you're doing 2 meditations a day, what I would encourage you to do, because really, remember, going back to the thing Rumi talked about, meditation is a state of recollection. We want to be able to develop both our ability for an open mind and one for a focused, concentrated mind. So you've got last week's meditation, which is to open the mind, this week's meditation to focus and concentrate the mind. So, you know, ideally, in a perfect world, you would do 1 in the morning and then 1 at night. You know, and just think to yourself, like, and maybe that won't work even one day this week, but ask yourself this. Knowing who you are, if you're a morning person or a night person, which point of the day do you tend to have more focus? Where do you have more mental capacity versus the time of day where your mind is just like, I have no mental energy left, right? So we talked about that last week, how the brain uses 80% of the oxygen in your blood, that you breathe, also uses it's also the primary user of the glycogen in your blood, so the sugar. So Brain is the most important thing. So if your brain's tired, you're not going to be able to do this. And it's probably better to be doing the open one. And that's another reason why, you know, we close the eyes on that one, because it can be a restful thing. Whereas opening the eyes here with this, you've got, you're literally trying to interface with the present moment, with the senses in real time. Tend to do. And we use the metaphor of a train passing by, right? The train's passing by, train's passing by, train's passing by. All of a sudden, there may be a moment where we just happen to catch a glimpse perfectly right in between two of the train cars. And we see where time stands still. That's the gap. And if we can catch that moment in a way where we stay with it and we stay concentrated on it, that's really what that liminal space of being in the present moment is all about. It takes a lot of concentration. Takes a lot of practice, takes a lot of effort. It's kind of like, have you ever seen one of those pictures that it just looks like a image, but then you like blur your eyes kind of, and like an image pops out of it? I can't remember what those like optical illusion pictures or magic eye pictures. That's kind of what this is like. It requires you to play with the way that your mind is interpreting reality. And eventually, if you just stay open to kind of hologram image, yes, Cheryl. If you stay open to the possibility that what you're seeing might just be an interpretation of reality, and just keep that open, every once in a while you'll get this, and you'll concentrate in just in the right way, you'll get this little glimpse of reality. And it'll be those moments of awakening. And that was kind of the whole point of bringing in the Four Noble Truths, is when that gap gets broad enough, you see through the devices of life. You see through the things that seem like they're forever, but they're really just temporary constructs on us. So this week, try to practice a little bit of both and compare and contrast them, okay? Is that a clear assignment for everybody? Practice the meditation to open the mind, practice the meditation to focus the mind. Start to kind of build both of those muscles. It's kind of like building your bicep and your tricep at the same time. They're kind of two sides of the same muscle of the brain. And then next week, hopefully, we will focus, we will try to put both together at the same time. So I would also be mindful of whichever one you think you're a little bit weaker at, and maybe spend a little bit more time with that, especially since you've got this momentum of all this group and everybody's encouragement and support behind you. Try to spend more time than you may normally with the technique that challenges you. But great job, great work. Thank you, everybody, so much for being here, for giving it your all, for putting your heart in there, sharing your truth. And thank you, Kristen, so much. It's always like such a pleasure to get to do these things with you. You're the best.
I love it.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Cheers. Thank you.
Thank you.
There's going to be 2 journal questions on the Google Classroom. So if you want to pop in and if you need some motivation, sometimes those questions are a great way for you to get yourself, to whet your appetite for the meditation practice again, okay? So pop on there, ask us any questions anytime. We'll see you next week. Thanks,
Okay,
y'all
thanks.
very much.
Thank you.